For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Thabi Madiba, researcher and analyst. Professor Raymond Suttner joins me for Suttner's View, a weekly commentary on South Africa's political scene. Welcome, Professor. Mantashe warned those calling on President Jacob Zuma to be removed that the ANC will split. So, Professor, what is your opinion on that?
Yes, I think that a lot of people didn't vote for the motion of no confidence because they feared that they would not agree on someone to replace Zuma at this point anyway, and that there would be disarray and that the organization would split. But one may well ask whether we are not already dealing with an organization that is de facto split, which doesn't speak with one voice, which has incurable divisions between some provinces, between some leaders, so that already you have a split organization. But what I think what Mantashe and others are saying is wait for December, and in December everything will come right. And I think that is an illusion. But let's look at the splits. I'm saying there are splits at the moment. The ANC's had a lot of splits in the past. You have the rise of the Africanist movement with the split of the PAC in 1958-59, and it was emerging before that. And that was ideological. They disagreed with the Freedom Charter. They disagreed with whites in the Congress Alliance. They disagreed with certain clauses in the Freedom Charter, particularly the ones relating to banks, and also that the land belongs to, South Africa belongs to all who live in it. In other words, settlers should not be treated in the same way as the black people of South Africa, especially Africans. Now that was an ideological split, a difference of opinion. Later in 1969 at Morogoro, they did expel people who were also Africanist in inclination. In 1980s, there was this so-called Marxist workers' tendency, people who believed that the struggle for socialism was the main thing, and those people were expelled. Again, ideological. What you've got today is people disagreeing because they want to tie their future to one or other person rather than some other person. They want to tie their future to that person not because they agree with the ideas, the strategies of that person. For example, in the 1990s, and probably from before that, there were some people who contrasted Thabo Mbeki and Chris Hani. They contrasted them because they were seen to represent different visions of the future, different visions for the ANC. A more militant approach on the side of Chris Hani, socialist, communist. In the case of Thabo Mbeki, although he had also been in the Communist Party, a more conciliatory approach. So that the reason for people associating themselves with individuals was not so much because they were expecting to be given mansions in Sandton or Dubai or wherever, but because they supported the line of march that this person represented. What you have today instead is people who want to stay attached to Zuma or someone designated by Zuma, so that the patronage and corrupt networks and benefits that they are associated with will continue for the future. And the alternative, if it is Cyril Ramaphosa, is unclear. The alternative in terms of anyone else except Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, it's expected that in her case she will safeguard the legacies of JZ, and the legacies of Zuma are not things like ideas. They are really relationships, people in certain positions, people who derive certain benefits. You have, for example, Mpumalanga under Mabuza appearing to hover no longer so clearly in the so-called Premier League camp. Is it ideological, or is it because he sees Cyril Ramaphosa winning or someone else winning, and that it will serve his interest in getting a position? You must remember, when you associate yourself with someone now, and you expect, and you're a leader, you expect to get a benefit, like to be made Treasurer General or Chair or something. And when you're in that position, you also expect to be able to benefit your supporters, because you are brought onto someone's ticket in order that you will bring your supporters. So my sense is that the ANC may very well split, and that it is already an organization that is in disarray.
But is it possible for a new president, presumably Cyril Ramaphosa, to clean up the ANC?
You see, Cyril Ramaphosa is identifying himself now with ending corruption, bringing people who are associated with state capture to trial. Now, we must remember, Cyril Ramaphosa, first of all, has been associated with everything that's happened since 2012. He's not actually, until very recently, voiced objections. He's not tried to have some measure of oversight in regard to what has happened in the reported state capture. He is number 2 in government. These things have been happening while he is the second most senior person in government and the ANC. Okay, he's now had a new vision as to what's happened. His eyes have opened to the wrongs that have been done, and he has decided that he's going to wipe out these things. But it's not so simple to do that, in the sense that at the level of corruption, from the top to the bottom of the ANC, there is the buying of votes, the buying of branches, and people join the ANC very often now not because they believe in ideas like National Democratic Revolution, but because they're poor. And to even be a councillor at least brings you in a couple of thousand a month, things like that. Or if you are in a higher position, you're hoping you'll get a tender, or you'll get on some board, or things like that. So that in order to get elected, even if people are anti-Zuma, they have come into the ANC. It's been unbanned for 27 years. Zuma has been there for 10 years. 10 years is a long time, even if everything was pure before that, which is not the case. But even if everything was pure before that, 10 years, in those 10 years, the organization has been one where people expect not to be won over by arguments about the Freedom Charter or National Democratic Revolution or the path to socialism, things like that. They're interested in money. And if Cyril Ramaphosa himself has got independent wealth, he does not need to, I'm assuming he has integrity, but he doesn't need, like Jacob Zuma, to use the resources of the state to enrich himself. But other people may well want that. So that's the first problem he has. Second problem is, December is 2017. Jacob Zuma remains state president. If Cyril Ramaphosa wants to remove him, will he be able to carry the ANC NEC with him in removing Zuma? And even if they do call on Zuma to be removed, will he go? You know, Zuma is not a gentleman, honourable man like Thabo Mbeki, who when he loses the confidence of his organisation steps down. Zuma may not go. So you have a problem in that the crisis will shift, its character may change slightly, but I don't see, people are seeing December 2017 as the time when South Africa will change substantially. It's also not clear what ideas Cyril Ramaphosa has for changing. What are the ways, what is the organizational plan to renew the ANC, let alone to clean up government? Because he's not going to be head of government at that point. So how does he clean it up? And to me, there's not enough thinking through of this. I think there are a lot of people who are very, very concerned. My belief is that they should not put their faith in individual leaders. We have this tendency to have messianic qualities that we attribute to particular leaders, and we tend to be disappointed. We shouldn't be attributing messianic qualities to any leader. But in this situation, what we need to be doing is asking ourselves, what powers do we have as individual citizens of the country? People are on the streets and other places of protest in a number of different capacities. What I wrote in my article this week, was to say that those formations need to be organized. You know, people do not understand the difference between mobilization. That is, that you bring people out into the streets and then they go home and they don't have connections with one another. They may come to the next march, they may not. But if you're part of an organization, you go the following week to a meeting, you then review how did the march go, what do we learn, what do we do to turn this into something powerful. You need to build organization. We need to take advantage of the discontent in the country, but not just have angry people, not just have emotional people, people whose anger is channeled into an organized force which supports, if there is a president who wants to clean up the country, they support that. If the NEC or if some people want, if Zuma doesn't go after 2017, people in the streets must make it happen, as they've done in South Africa before, but in other countries all over the world.
Thank you, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner speaking to Creamer Media's Polity about whether the ANC will split.